The Senator from Arlington, Senator Favola.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise on a point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Our great country was founded on core principles such as liberty, personal privacy, and equality. These principles ensured that individuals were free to make the most intimate decisions without governmental interference or discrimination. Some 40 years ago, on January 22nd, 1973, this foundation was illustrated in the Supreme Court decision, Roe v. Wade, which confirmed that the Constitution protects the right of privacy and every woman's ability to make her own personal medical decisions without the interference of politicians. Interestingly, the composition of the court was Brennan and Marshall as liberals, Powell, Douglas, and Stewart as swing votes, and Blackmun and Berger, who was Chief Justice, as conservatives. All upheld Roe v. Wade and agreed that a woman had a constitutional right to get an abortion. White and Rehnquist dissented. It typically has a swing vote and an extreme conservative. Justice Harry Blackmun, in his majority opinion, defended a woman's right to make her own personal medical choice, stating, and I quote, "This right of privacy, whether it be founded in the 14th Amendment's concept of personal liberty and restrictions upon state action as we feel it is, or as the district court determined in the 9th Amendment's reservation of rights to the people, is broad enough to encompass a woman's decision whether or not to terminate her pregnancy. The detriment that the state would impose upon the pregnant woman by denying this choice altogether is apparent." End of quote. Roe v. Wade was meant to ensure that abortion procedures remain safe, legal, and accessible for a woman to consider if and when she needs it. This decision has protected the health and lives of women in the United States. Prior to the 1973 decision, an estimated 1,200,000 women each year were forced to resort to illegal abortions despite the risk of unsanitary conditions, incompetent treatment, infection, disfiguration, and death. Virginians believe that abortion is a deeply personal and complex decision for a woman, and therefore a decision about whether to choose adoption, to end a pregnancy, to raise a child must be left to a woman, her family, and her faith leader, with the counsel of her physician or health care provider. The actions of this General Assembly in recent sessions are way out of line with how most Virginians view the role of government in this important matter. The ultrasound bills this General Assembly discussed last session was only the second time in history where the Commonwealth attempted to actually mandate a medical procedure, and in fact, we succeeded. The first time was when we had taken that shameful step of requiring those deemed to be mentally retarded to go through sterilization. This was a time in the Commonwealth's history, just last session, where we interfered in that personal medical decision between a woman and her doctor. A couple sessions ago, a bill passed that now has enabled the TRAP regulations, the targeted regulations against abortion providers, requiring that these clinics, which provide primary care, preventive services, a range of reproductive health services, actually meet the physical requirements of a hospital. There was no medical evidence to suggest that these requirements were necessary. And surprisingly enough, these clinics have actually contributed to a significant reduction in the number of abortions. Since 1980, that number has been reduced 50%, primarily because women have had access to primary care and reproductive health services. These clinics will now be forced to close because of the onerous regulations they'll be facing. Aside from protecting women's health rights and privacy, in 1992, there was a Planned Parenthood case, and the Supreme Court once again observed that the ability of a woman to participate equally in the economic and social life of the nation has actually been facilitated by a woman's ability to control her reproductive choices. I conclude by saying I would venture to say that Thomas Jefferson envisioned a commonwealth that would embrace a role of limited government, a commonwealth that would respect an individual's right to privacy, a commonwealth that was not in the doctor's examination office, and a commonwealth that did not let politics come before a patient and her doctor. I ask the Senate and leaders throughout the Commonwealth to honor the constitutional rights of all Virginians.